John, hi.
Hi.
So we're going to do a quick sort of impromptu, informal interview with you.
Okay.
So do you want to start by saying who you are and what you do?
Yep, so I'm John Nicholson and I'm a director of the Virtual Training Team Limited. Have been since its sort of inception about 3 years ago. Prior to that, 15, 16 years in L&D running a sister company of VTT. But that was more about face-to-face training and some blended training as well. So prior to that, in banking and finance.
So quite a varied history for you then.
Yes, but in the banking and finance, some of that time was L&D based as well. So I had quite a lot of training responsibility, particularly in my last PLC for the last few years. Quite a lot of training under my wing, so to speak. So L&D's in my blood, always has been really. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so with regards to the virtual training team,
Yep.
what is virtual training? Why did you why branch into it at this time in particular?
Good question. So first of all, what is virtual training? So there are some misconceptions out there, but in a nutshell, virtual training is live, interactive, coach-led. Some people call it VIL, virtual interactive. Virtual instructor-led training. So what you have, if you can imagine this, you have a virtual classroom where people dial in and attend, and you have a coach, and they run the training course virtually. So everyone's on their computers, but it is very much like being in the room together, without being in the room together.
Okay, and second part of that question then was like why virtual training now?
Why virtual training now? In fact, why? Well, yeah, okay. So why virtual training now? So about 10 years ago, we started to first come across platforms that enabled this live and interactive version of training be able to go online. And we were at the time contracting ourselves to a global training deliverer. And we started to see that very quickly their clients around the world really got an appetite for virtual training, and the percentage of their delivery started to move upwards significantly, and we realised that this was a marketplace that was coming. So what we then did was start to skill ourselves, start to learn, start to develop our thinking around what virtual training should be and what skill sets any trainer that wants to go online needs. So we do train the trainer, and also for ourselves to be able to deliver training expertly, professionally, creating learning transfer, but virtually.
Great. Oh, it's really interesting. I can definitely see where it's taking off with a lot of changes happening in the world around us.
Yeah.
So it definitely explains why you started sort of the virtual training team. So in a similar vein then, what would you say the area is that you're most passionate about? And that can be either virtual or face-to-face.
Okay, so from a training delivery point of view, I think my passion lays in the land of management development. I spend probably 3/4 of my time helping managers in all sorts of ways on programs, one-to-one, but a lot of training delivery around the key essentials for good managers. And when you get a great manager, people stick around, they get more engaged in the work that they do, they have less stress, less time off, they just deliver more and have a more enjoyable time at work, and they grow more. So if you get a great manager, you get great people in their teams potentially as well. And having had a whole variety of managers myself in my corporate life, I know the value of a great manager, and so that's what I really like to work on, and those are the type of people I like to work with, the managers who really want to develop the skills, from first-time managers to very experienced managers. I was doing it on my last training day, I'm doing it tomorrow. It's pretty much where I spend my time. So in terms of my other passion, my passion for virtual training comes from being inclusive, allowing people from every office to get the training and not have to do the travel into the head office. We reduce carbon footprint. We take out, we improve well-being for people because they don't have to have to travel away from the family. They don't have to get the risk of getting on a plane or traveling to big cities, all stuff like that. I just think virtual training just resolves so many issues for companies and for the people coming on training. It's just a brilliant thing.
I would agree. To be fair, you've just covered my next question.
Oh,
which
sorry.
was,
My enthusiasm carried away with me,
definitely.
of course.
What did you think was the best thing about the virtual training? But I suppose you've kind of covered it there with the reduction in carbon.
Yeah, I can still go on. I can still sort of add on a bit more, because I think the great thing about virtual training is that you can still create learning transfer just as powerfully. Catherine was in the studio the other morning at 6 o'clock UK time, coaching some people in far-flung places around the world, people that she will never meet face to face, and they were coming to the end of a series of masterclasses that forms our Train the Trainer total program, and these, we were leaving people in Australia or in China or in Japan or wherever it was after this masterclass program, and we were as we were coming to say goodbye, or Catherine was coming to say goodbye, I was in the room at the time, they'd formed a bond. They'd formed a bond, there was trust there was learning going on, they were very grateful, they'd come on a brilliant journey, they'd achieved a great deal, massive movement forwards, and these people were sharing that they would never have achieved it on their own without help, as is often the way, and that's why we train people. So it's just a great thing, because companies can't afford to pay, and actually humans shouldn't travel when they really don't need to. I understand people going on holiday, I go on holiday myself, but just travel in business and when you've been around as long as I have in corporate, you just see the amount of travel that people do and the resources they use and the time away. Some people love it, some people don't. So for me, that's my passion, is virtual training answers a lot of the challenges that companies are going to have to resolve going forwards. It's very inclusive, cuts cost massively of training delivery, so you can get a load more training delivery for your buck. Anyway, that's me.
Lots and lots of benefits then to virtual training.
Lots.
Previously you mentioned about there being some misconceptions about virtual training.
Yeah.
What might a couple of those be?
So there's lots of things you can do with technology to aid learning, and with the advent of the internet, we have this ability to do things like webinars, which reach a great number of people potentially. You can have 200 people on a webinar, and that's great. But when you ask people, when they're on that webinar, how much of the content truly are you engaged with, it varies. And some people say, I like going on a webinar because I get all my emails done. And that to me, as someone whose passion is in helping people to learn useful things quickly and apply them and get something from training, that doesn't seem right. So I'm sure webinar has its place as a communication tool, as does e-learning. E-learning allows people to access learning when they want to, remotely, which is great. Talking to many clients, some companies have great engagement in early days, but with e-learning, some people report that the engagement levels drop off after a period of time. And so when we say virtual training, those are often the misconceptions. And sometimes we even have individuals we're talking to use all three words in one sentence. They'll say, "Oh yes, we're going on. We love your webinars, and we want to do more of this e-learning thing because we love virtual training." And they are very, very different things. And when the misconception flies out of the window as soon as an individual comes on a session and realizes the absolutely massive potential and the usability and the interaction of virtual platforms, and there are a number. So I think the there's a misconception about what the delivery channel actually is and what it can achieve. I also think there's a misconception for some people about, particularly within the training community, we know huge amounts of brilliant trainers, and some of them have migrated to do virtual training, and they will report it is a whole different skill set. In addition to being a great trainer and having to understand your material, your brief, where you want to get people to, what skills, what models you want them to have at the end of all this, they can go and apply, and you can do that with energy and enthusiasm and passion to create learning transfer. Still, some trainers think it is absolutely dead easy just to pick up your PowerPoint slide deck, chuck it online, get ready for your session, and it'll all work. It doesn't, and that's a massive misconception. And we often get asked to come and help companies who have tried it and sort of failed with it, and we help them to sort of fix it, pick up the pieces, get it done right, and encourage and enthuse their trainers to want to deliver it, to deliver virtually. And so we often get invited in on that basis when a company's already tried and sort of fallen over it a bit. So those are a couple of misconception areas. If that helps.
Just a couple.
Right. Yeah, long answer, sorry.
That's all right. It's good. It's nice to pick up the enthusiasm that you have for this and really hammer home the idea that the virtual training team is here to help companies in that situation, very much so. So really, to round this off, I mean, is there anything else that you would say to somebody watching this who's a bit curious about virtual training, doesn't really know either what it is properly, despite the fact that you've given a fantastic definition, or doesn't know where to start? I mean, what final words would you impart onto them?
I think I could do the obvious advert, contact us, and that's fine. But if you were wanting to look at the world of virtual training and want to check it out, get a virtual training company to demonstrate how it works. So go and actually have half an hour and immerse yourself as a participant so that you can really understand and see. Then do your maths, I would suggest, of actually calculating, if it's a UK-based course, London or Manchester or Edinburgh, just how much travel, cost, hotels, trains, planes, all that a typical training session might cost you. And then start to consider, what are my options here? As long as it might always come back to that, as long as we create learning transfer equivalent to being in a face-to-face environment, then virtual training will always stand up to scrutiny and will help companies to create this inclusivity of the satellites versus the head office hub, wherever that might be, to reduce their carbon usage and to take out cost. And actually stay ahead of with the modern world as well. So I think those are some of my sort of final thoughts in terms of where to start engaging. Get on and experience just half an hour with a virtual training provider so you get a real feel for what it's like to be a participant and the potential that you can realise through virtual training.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks, John. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.